During World War II, the Germans considered their submariners as heroes who led glamorous lives. However, the reality of life aboard a German submarine was entirely different. Life on the U-boats was cramped and fetid, a world of narrow spaces, discomfort, boredom, and terror. The crews lived in overcrowded compartments filled with supplies, machinery, instruments, or torpedoes. They slept on planks above the projectiles until these were used against their targets, freeing up some space for bunks or hammocks. The diesel engines, used for surface navigation and battery recharging, raised the temperature beyond 50 degrees Celsius. The air became stifling during prolonged periods beneath the ocean's surface. Fresh water was scarce, there were no showers, and the crew rarely bathed during combat patrols that could last up to 3 months. The stench of sweaty bodies mixed with the odors of bilge water, latrines, cooking, musty clothes, diesel fuel, and the lemon-scented cologne the men used to remove salt from their faces. One of the challenges submarines faced was provisioning. The amount of fresh food and water for cooking and drinking was strictly limited due to the cramped space, which had to be shared with the crew, weapons, and equipment. It is not surprising that in some photos, sausages, hams, boxes of fruit, and other provisions can be seen stored in the most unexpected places, even to the extent of using the toilet next to the kitchen as an improvised pantry. The small kitchen had 3 electric burners and 2 small ovens. It also contained a refrigerator, a pot to keep soup warm, cupboards for provisions, and a sink with cold and hot fresh water, as well as hot salt water. Food storage was the responsibility of the Obersteuermann, the navigator, who was also in charge of logistics. Canned food was kept in a pantry in front of the kitchen. Ham, sausages, and other preserved meats were stored between the forward torpedo tubes or hung in the control room. These were consumed last since they lasted longer. Bread was stored in the forward torpedo room and the electric motor room, but it was the first item to be eaten, as it remained fresh for only a short time. Fresh meat and fish were kept in the small refrigerator, which, despite being the coolest spot on the U-boat, did not preserve food for long. As the days passed, the cook's ability to keep the crew content became crucial. There were 3 fundamental rules for food storage. It had to be securely fastened so that it would not fall or obstruct movement during an attack. It had to be distributed and consumed in a way that did not affect the submarine's trim. And enough space had to remain clear for access to controls, valves, and hatches. As food was consumed, the trim of the submarine had to be readjusted. There was no privacy, except for the brief time spent in the latrine, nor was there peace and quiet. If you're wondering how these men managed with only one working toilet, while the other was packed with supplies, imagine a very vivid picture. The lights were always on, accompanied by the shrieking of radio communications, the hissing of wet rubber boots, the hum of a bilge pump, the suction of air intake valves, and the pulse of the diesel engines. Danger was ever present. In rough seas, waves often crashed over the conning tower, sweeping men overboard. In October 1941, when U-106 crossed the Bay of Biscay on a calm, blue day, a new watch crew stepped outside, only to discover that the 4 men they were relieving had vanished. A massive wave had swept them away, and no one had noticed. Such incidents combined with the paranoia of the submariners, known by the Germans as Blechkoller or tin can neurosis, a form of nervous tension that could escalate into violent hysteria, particularly under depth charge attacks. If struck by one of these charges, death was almost certain. If they dove too deep, the submarine could collapse and be crushed like a soda can under immense pressure. When Allied warships ended their attack on a submarine, the commander's first thought was to surface and breathe fresh air, hopefully soon finding a target, as sinking an enemy vessel would ease the tension among the exhausted crew. The terror that German U-boats instilled in the Allies was matched by the horrors faced by the submariners themselves. Serving as a crew member on a German submarine was one of the toughest and most dangerous combat roles of World War II. German U-boats sank a total of 2,779 merchant ships and 382 warships and support vessels during the war, but at a staggering cost. Germany lost 28,542 out of its 41,300 submariners. 70% of those assigned to the submarine force perished. Of the U-boats that saw combat, 753 were lost, with only 108 surviving the war. Cinema has produced numerous submarine films, but the one that best captures life aboard a U-boat is the outstanding Das Boot, The Boat, directed by Wolfgang Petersen.